Cubelic played at Auburn. He is also with ESPN, also works for the SEC Network, and does other media as well. And he joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. Cole, thanks for your time. Especially, I'll tell everybody, you're doing a little babysitting today, a little work with the kids, so we appreciate you doing for that. So, did Auburn hang Bryan Harsin out to dry? And on top of that, does he have any power left, or does this actually make him stronger?
I think it has a chance to make him stronger. That'll depend on results on the field. I think that's the only thing that can really change it. And we've seen this before with Tommy Tuberville, folks familiar with Jetgate, when the Auburn athletic director, Auburn boosters, used a booster plane to go to Louisville and try to steal Bobby Petrino from Louisville to come be the next head coach, while Tommy was the sitting head coach and still had football left to play. He beats Alabama and goes on and has more success, and was able to turn that into a pretty lengthy career as the Auburn football coach after it happened. So I think he's got an opportunity. I think it's there are a lot of Auburn fans whose eyes have been open to just how some things operate and how it's not right, how filthy it is, how gross it is, and they don't want that anymore. So they would probably like to see a guy that stood up for himself, stood up for his family, stood up to the university, or at least people involved with it, and said, no, I'm not going to run. Because first off, there are a lot of coaches that would have said, listen, get this thing down to 8, 10, 12, and I'm out. I'll take my money and run. Harsin didn't do that. And he stood pretty pat and pretty strong by the fact that if you want to get rid of me, you can. It's going to cost you 18.4. That's it. That's the total buyout. There's no negotiation because I haven't done anything wrong, or I, in a damn sure haven't done anything deserve to be fired for cause. So now as far as how they handled it, how they treated it, the easiest way for me to summarize this from a distance, but also having a lot of knowledge about exactly how a lot of this went down, is that this was emotional. And I think that there are a lot of things that played into that. I think you had a couple of boosters, a couple of people in positions of power that were emotional about the fact that he was even hired, that they've been mad for 10, 11, 12 months. They've just been angry. So those emotions have been there. Derek Mason decides to leave, and that exit interview doesn't go well. He doesn't like Harsin. He has bad things to say. That gets everybody riled up. Emotions come out again. Former players that have left to go play at other places, most of which didn't really contribute or play. Exit interviews don't go well. They're mad at the coach. Who knows why? He was mean to me. He told me I wasn't good enough to play. He didn't start me. However you want to spin it. People heard that and said, oh, this guy's a terrible person, and emotions start to get turned up again. Well, you utilize all those emotions and you turn them into forcing yourself to believe it's time to get the guy out and that you can. And then you present those emotions to your legal team. And as we all know, emotional ideas and ideology don't necessarily match up with the law. And legally, I would assume that team probably looked back and said, yeah, we can't fire anyone for cause just because people don't like him or they're mad at him or they think that he gave them a raw deal. So, unfortunately, that led to other things being turned up on social media, things that I've decided not even to go into, and that's kind of where we stand now. But I think a lot of folks learned a lot about the character of Bryan Harsin with how he was able to sort of deal with this, stand up to it, not back down, and put up with a lot, honestly, through the media in the last 7-8 days.
Let's fast forward to around Thanksgiving of this year and say Auburn's not all that much better. Say they're maybe 2 games better and the animosity is still there. Do the same people crop up and say, now it's time to fire him?
Some of them most likely will, because as I stated before, those guys didn't want him there in the first place. And they thought that it was a mistake even bringing him in, which when the hire was made, I thought that's one reason to me that it was a good hire, is because got out of the good old boy network. And didn't hire somebody's buddy that's going to have brunch with them every Sunday and have a bourbon with them every Saturday night after the game. Whatever, I don't know what these people want. First and foremost, like I don't. I understand if you want your name on a building, like that's great. Like go have the David Smoak weight room center facility, whatever. If you want to do that, like that's cool. Give $100 million and you can have that. But these guys that want quote power and quote control, I just always wonder what they want. I just do you want to call plays? Like do you want a headset? If I was the AD, it'd be the first conversation I had with the big players. I'd say, I need you to line up for me right now exactly what you want, and we need to have a conversation about that because I'm going to be able to meet a lot of those needs. I'm not going to be able to get to some of them. Some of them we're going to have to meet in the middle. You want a headset during games? That's cool. You can have one. We'll get you one in your suite. Now, you're not going to have a microphone to be able to communicate back with the coaches, but we'll let you listen to what they have to say during the game. Do you want a locker? Okay, well, I can't get you one of those in the locker room, but I can have you a replica locker built at your place of employment. When you go into work every day, that's where you can change clothes, and that's where you can get ready for work. You can act like you can even play the fight song over the loudspeakers and act like you're running out to the stadium every week. Do you want to have brunch with the coach every Sunday after games? I can probably get you that 4 or 5 times. I don't know if I can promise that every Sunday. So do you need a good morning text from the coach every day? I might be able to get you 2 or 3 a week, but I can't get you 7 days. So I just don't know what they want. Yeah. And it's frustrating to see and frustrating to hear because I don't think it's black and white. This whole control and power and run the organization, no one really knows what it is. I'm not sure those people even know what it is. They just know they got a lot of money, and that money usually gets them the answers that they want to hear and doesn't have a lot of people telling them no. And then all of a sudden they get into a circumstance like this, and it becomes a little bit more complicated.
Cole, in terms of the on-the-field product, obviously is not what people wanted either this past season. They brought Zach Calzada in now through the transfer portal, but obviously lost a lot through the transfer portal as well. Just in terms of looking back at Auburn 2021, what were your thoughts on the team? What went well? What did not go well? And what do you look at Bryan Harsin and say, like, okay, that this has got to be better in 2021 for things to go a little smoother?
Yeah, there's still some talent upgrades that are needed. And we could say that about 120 college football teams. Yeah. So that's fairly obvious, but there are some desperate needs of talent upgrades on this football team. Offensive line would be the first. Wide receiver would be the second if I was sort of judging by where positions needed to be upgraded their talent the most. But the good news is, last year you showed some flashes that offensively, when the offensive line could protect, that things were going to work. You did develop a couple of guys and make them into pretty good players last year. If you'd have told me that John Samuel Shanker just had the most productive season of any tight end in Auburn football history, I wouldn't have believed that going into the year. But he did. He had more receptions, more catches, more touchdown catches than any Auburn tight end in history. And there have been some good ones. Andy Fuller, Fred Baxter. There have been some. Robert Johnson was a good tight end. There have been some good tight ends that have played at Auburn. Bill Bletzenkirk, and he just had the most productive year ever. So I think you saw what Tank Bigsby can be when he has everything in line, when he has everything in order, when he wants to be great. But it starts up front. And that offensive line's got to become more consistent. They're going to have a quarterback that obviously can help them make plays, but is also consistent. And that was the thing with Bo Nix last year. He'd be really good for 2-3 series. And then all of a sudden he'd give you some of those just major head-scratching moments when you just wondered, what in the world are you seeing or what are you thinking? And they did calm him down. That's the weird part about Bo Nix leaving is he improved last year. His pocket presence got better. He didn't bail on protection near as quick as he did the previous year. So there were some things about his game that were actually better. So, defensively, sometimes things were good. I allowed the Alabama game for 3.5 quarters, Mississippi State for a half, and then things were really bad, like the last drive against Alabama and overtime, and then obviously the second half against Mississippi State. So there showed some signs that things could go well and that things can be better, but then they also showed some signs that looked similar to what it had been the previous year or two. So I think if you're projecting out towards this year, quarterback play is going to be big. Finley or Calzada, whoever it is, just got to be consistent, got to have an understanding of where to get the football, when to get it out. The offensive line will have experience. Brady Council's played a lot of football. Nick Brahms has played a lot of football. So those guys coming back helps. Austin Troxell's been in the program for a while. He's been banged up, but he's been in the program and played some. So they'll have experience, but those guys just haven't been great. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they can go win the Joe Moore Award because those guys haven't put together a lot of great football in the time that they have been there. And you got Tank Bigsby. You should be able to build everything offensively around Tank Bigsby. But I don't know who the receivers are going to be. You've had 3 hit the portal this year that were productive for you last year. You have one receiver returning that had double-digit receptions last year, so that's going to be a problem. And I would anticipate they go after one in the portal after spring, maybe another offensive lineman, maybe another interior defensive lineman because they need depth there as well. But they showed some signs that things can be good, but the inconsistencies were still there.
Cole, if Eric Mateos and what Jeff Grimes brought to the table with that wide zone offense, an offensive line that last year, 2020, couldn't move themselves anywhere. They couldn't do anything. If they can improve, I'm telling you, it was a wreck and you probably saw it a couple of times. If they can do what they did, which was almost miraculous, then if Auburn has some of the pieces in play, then obviously they have a chance at that Joe Moore Award, because Baylor was right smack in the middle of that this year as well.
And that's why we had them as a semifinalist for our award this year. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, absolutely, and I don't think Jeff or Eric, I've spoken to both of them about that group and told them just how pleasantly surprised I was watching them. I don't think they would take this negatively, and none of that, absolutely 0% of that was based on talent. Because there's not only is there not a first or second rounder, there might not be a rounder on that Baylor offensive line. But I think that's a compliment to how they played, because they were in sync. They understood how to work together. They didn't leave each other out on limbs. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch. They were very similar to Arkansas and Michigan State this year. There were a couple of offensive lines that just weren't littered with NFL talent, but really just got it and understood how to operate together. And Eric and Jeff did a great job with that group last year at Baylor. They were fun to watch. And part of that is similar, too. You know, Bryan wants to build through the stretch play. He wants to use that outside zone play to sort of construct the offense because of what it does, widening the surface, and what it opens up with play action, bootlegs, things like that. So that's something that if they can find a way to get that going and they have a back that can do it, then maybe they could find some success.
Cole, do you think Harsin's at any disadvantage because of all this and now needing to go out and hire an OC, just in terms of an OC wondering, okay, how long is this going to last based on what's gone on the last couple of weeks?
He's definitely at a disadvantage, and that's just because the other schools in the Southeastern Conference have gotten just a gift of, a complete arsenal of ammunition to recruit negatively against Auburn and Bryan Harsin. And you just don't overcome that. So he's at a disadvantage there. And at a time, as we just mentioned a little bit earlier, when there are certain things that really do need to be added to that roster, and now it's going to become that much more difficult to go get them. So he just got to find a way to build some continuity within his staff, within his team, within that entire program. The thing about Auburn is Auburn lives on islands. There's an athletic director island. There's a team island, player island. There's an AD island. There's a head coaching island. There's a booster island. There's a board of trustees island. Very rarely are there bridges that are intact or operational between those islands. 2013 there was, 2017 there was, 2010. We've seen it before, but right now it feels like, and maybe this just changed today or last night with this news that's come about, but it feels like one booster's island has a life raft to get around, and that's about the only way that you move from island to island. So he's got to build bridges, and that's from a communicative standpoint, that's from a need standpoint, and an understanding standpoint of just what everybody wants and how you get it.
Cole, when we have any other thing like this with head coaching drama, no matter what sport, and we go down the list of what boosters may want, we're just going to play that early part of your segment because that was brilliant. Like, have you ever had a cat? Have you ever owned a cat?
I had a roommate that had one at one time, I've been around them.
They want that little chin scratched a little bit, and they'll start to purr. That might be also something that we could list to that as well. It's almost like that's what they sometimes, some of their egos need that.
Just a little attention.
Yeah, a little bit.
No, I think it's a good analogy, though. Boosters are not dogs that give you affection automatically.
No.
Boosters are cats where you have to earn it, and you don't know if you ever really have it or it's just because they want the food.
And if you leave and you come back from a trip and they leave, they don't want you there, but when you leave, they want to make sure they leave some poop on your pillow just to make sure you realize it is about them. All right. Hey, man.
Auburn left a lot of poop on Bryan Harsin's show.
I'm glad he's safe. I really do. It was a hit job, man. It was
I am too.
My God. Cole, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Do it again soon.
Cubelic, good stuff from Auburn. I mean, that's some true serum there. Now, not everybody's going to agree with him, and that's fine. A lot of those of you who are Auburn fans, not just Bob, but a couple of others, love what you heard. Pretty much everything you heard. He came firing out.
Look, there are two things I believe that happened. One, what Cole said, that they did. They didn't want him from the beginning. Then he had the cardinal sin of being average in his first year. And I guess slightly below because they lost the bowl game. And then also having Alabama on the ropes and letting them off the hook.
And they played them off their heels. I mean, Alabama was dead to rights. And so there's that as well. Good luck to Bryan Harsin. And like he said, he also gave them opponents, every one of them, fuel to light any kind of ammunition or weaponry towards Auburn when it comes to recruiting as you could possibly have.
I mean, yeah, they lost the bowl game, but the part about losing the bowl game was that was their 5th straight loss to end the season. That's where they really got sideways.
They were in a free fall.
They just absolutely plummeted the second half of the season. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, hey, if you're a big hotshot OC and Bryan Harsin comes calling, typically you see Auburn calling, you're like, hey, it's Auburn. But it's a little different now if they call, because you start, let me Google Auburn football real quick, see what's been going on lately, what I'm walking into. Oh,
is this a 1-year deal?
Yeah. Am I going to be why do you want me to sign a 3-year contract when I might not be here in,
Past
11
December.
months?
Yeah.
So that will be difficult. Somebody will be up for it, but they did self-inflict, some damage to themselves. Those boosters did. So yeah, it's going to be a tough thing to navigate. At least it's cleared up now, and what is what in terms of he's there, he's going to be there at least for next year, and then all bets are off after that. But at least there is some clarity today, because I know the last week had to have been hell for Auburn fans, just wondering what in the heck was going on and who might be their head coach.
Imagine what it was like for Bryan Harsin and his family.
Well, yeah.
I woke up today and saw that story, or I saw it as it trickled in this morning. I was surprised. I thought it was going to end up the other way around.
I'm shocked. Yeah.
All right. Now, when we